David Graeber, Debt, The First 5,000 Years, Updated and Expanded. Dive into the fascinating world of Debt, The First 5,000 Years, by David Graeber, which challenges widely held beliefs about the origins of money, bartering, and credit. This book summary explores the myriad ways in which money has evolved over the millennia, highlighting the various roles it has played in shaping societies, cultures, and economies. You'll discover how pre-industrial societies perceived credit and monetary value, how markets functioned in ancient times, and the significant impact of violence on the development of money. This intriguing journey through economic history will inspire you to question our current financial systems and ponder the potential for a radically different future.
Debunking the barter myth. Contrary to popular belief and economic history textbooks, there is no substantial evidence that bartering came before money. In fact, anthropological studies show that societies were using virtual money, like credit, long before the invention of physical money or bartering. For instance, in ancient Mesopotamia, the silver shekel, while physically stored in temple and palace treasuries, was used as a virtual monetary system, with an exchange rate established between silver shekels and barley. The myth of bartering persists due to its significance in economic theory, which assumes individuals are inherently focused on maximizing profit. However, this perspective is not a natural inclination but rather the result of a specific historical process. In reality, people are more likely to engage in transactions outside of a bartering system when dealing with family or close friends, illustrating that the barter-to-money narrative should be re-evaluated. Money, value, and human economies. Money is more vital socially than it is economically, especially when we look at pre-industrial societies that operated as human economies. In these societies, people cannot be equated to a specific value because of their web of social connections. Using money in transactions symbolizes an acknowledgement of social debt rather than attaching an exact worth to a person or item. The concept of decontextualization, often resulting from violence, enables us to exchange people or objects with assigned abstract values, a practice visible in both the market and situations like slavery. Money plays a crucial role in our lives, but its true significance often lies in the realm of social connections rather than pure economics. Pre-industrial societies, operating as human economies, demonstrate how each person possesses an intrinsic, unique value, defying any attempts at quantification. Surrounded by a complex web of relationships, individuals cannot be reduced to mere mathematical values. In such societies, the exchange of money operates on a symbolic level. For instance, during a marriage transaction, a suitor provides the bride's family with a sum of money, but he isn't purchasing his wife. Instead, the monetary exchange acknowledges his social debt to her family. The notion of people being identical and hence exchangeable necessitates their forceful removal from their respective social webs, a process that commoditizes them. Slavery illustrates this idea well. Slaves, typically prisoners of war, become exchangeable once their social obligations are severed. They ultimately become commodities that can be bought and sold with other individuals thought to have the same value. Though extreme, slavery exemplifies how the trading of objects or currency relies on abstract exchange values assignment to decontextualized items. For example, corn purchased in a market is devoid of context, different from corn gifted by your grandmother. It's worth noting that decontextualization often stems from acts of violence, shedding light on the darker side of monetary and commodity-based exchanges. War, states, and money's origins. The theory of cartelism proposes that states invented money to simplify warfare, leading to the development of modern economic systems. Rulers needed essential materials like food and metal for their armies, but gathering them via a door-to-door approach was impractical and unsustainable. So, states created taxation systems, distributing coins to soldiers, who then spent them in local markets. In turn, rulers required each family to pay taxes in these coins, establishing a continuous cycle bolstering the state's military might. This process laid the foundation of our market concept. Historically, ancient markets often appeared after organized armies or near palaces and military outposts, highlighting the close relationship between markets, the state, and warfare. Contrary to economic beliefs, this suggests that markets did not arise from innate human tendencies, but rather through the influence of violence and political power. War craves bullion, peace prefers credit. Societies tend to use coins, specifically gold or silver bullion, as currency during times of chaos, such as war, while periods of peace often see a shift towards credit-based transactions. Around 600 BCE to 500 BCE, coinage emerged in three unrelated regions: northern China, the Ganges River Valley in India, and the lands near the Aegean Sea. During wartime, merchants favored bullion as a means of secure and uncomplicated transactions, helpful when dealing with transient customers like soldiers. Conversely, peaceful times allowed for the establishment of more complex credit systems built on trust, minimizing the need for immediate payments in physical currency. As history alternates between periods of war and peace, society's preference swings between upfront gold or silver payments and credit-based transactions. Ancient origins of modern credit. The concept of money has evolved throughout history, originating from abstract ideas in ancient Mesopotamia, India, and China. These civilizations relied on measures of precious metals, such as silver, to calculate taxes and debts, but used physical currency like barley to make payments. Early credit systems were established, with the practice of lending money at interest becoming common as a means to secure payments in transactions where trust was limited. This historical context demonstrates that the foundations of our modern credit systems have been in place for thousands of years, influenced by shifting societal dynamics. In ancient Mesopotamia, India, and China, governing bodies controlled the abstract value of money. For instance, Mesopotamian temples and palaces stored silver ingots that supported their monetary systems. The value of silver was used for calculating debts and taxes, while physical currency like barley facilitated payments. When settling debts, individuals paid with amounts of barley equivalent to the worth of the respective precious metal. Credit systems emerged in local markets, with businesses keeping accounts of regular customers and maintaining lists of reliable clientele. Debts were collected during harvest, often recorded with clay tablets detailing future payments. Once the amount was settled, the tablet was physically broken to signify the debt's fulfillment. These clay tablets could also be used to pay off other debts, effectively serving as currency themselves. As a result, people adopted the practice of lending money with interest as a way to secure payments, especially when dealing with someone outside their local community. This method was less risky than requesting profit shares, as there was no assurance of a traveling merchant's honesty when reporting their earnings. Therefore, levying interest became customary in business relationships where trust was sparse. These ancient credit systems mirror many aspects of modern finance, proving that our current credit and debt models have deep historical roots. It is evident that the fundamentals of these financial systems have been present for millennia, with the onset of war and other societal changes further shaping their development. Coinage and spiritual awakening. During the Axial Age, a period of great transformation, coinage emerged not for trade but rather to pay mercenary soldiers with the plundered precious metals. This significant societal shift led to an increase in materialistic exchanges and the rise of major religions, which served as a response to this newfound materialism. The Axial Age, as defined by philosopher Karl Jaspers, was a time of revolutionary change that saw influential figures such as Pythagoras, Buddha, and Confucius leave their mark on history. However, it was also an age marked with conflict, including wars in China and the fall of the Roman Empire. Amidst these upheavals, organized armies rose, bringing along a fascinating development: coinage. Contrary to popular belief, coinage wasn't created to facilitate trade. In fact, the trade-centric Phoenician Empire was among the last to adopt it. Around 600 BCE, the Kingdom of Lydia, located in present-day Anatolia, introduced the first coins as a means to pay mercenary soldiers. Gold and silver, acquired by plundering enemy palaces and temples, were used to mint these coins, giving rulers an ideal way to compensate their warriors. Paying soldiers with coins made of precious metals proved more practical than using livestock or unreliable promissory notes. Consequently, this development enabled the creation of markets and, intriguingly, may have also influenced the establishment of major world religions. Around the Axial Age, Buddhism, Judaism, and Christianity appeared simultaneously as commerce grew more materialistic. As barter exchanges evolved from abstract values of debt and credit into tangible transactions involving coins, many religions arose as a reaction to this growing materialism. These faiths, rooted in the belief of a spiritual world transcending material objects, provided an antidote to the mundane exchanges dominating their societies. Christianity, for instance, distinguishes between the carnal and the divine, addressing the societal changes occurring during this transformative era. Religion shapes medieval commerce. In the Middle Ages, religious values significantly influenced market practices across various regions. Islamic empires, united by shared faith, facilitated trust among merchants, leading to a wider adoption of virtual money in forms of debt or credit. Furthermore, the prohibition of interest-bearing loans by the Quran streamlined financial transactions. This religiously backed commerce limited state control in the Middle East and Persia, spawning some of the earliest free markets. Meanwhile, Europe saw a shift from bullion to virtual money due to practical reasons including metal scarcity following the Roman Empire's collapse. Alternative currencies, such as checks and tallies, emerged and were regulated by religious orders like the Knights Templar. Over in China, Buddhist monasteries relied on community donations, initially causing economic chaos by depleting the bullion supply. Subsequently, merchants turned to local banks and checks for capital storage. The state initially resisted this practice but later standardized the use of paper money, effectively seizing control over the financial system. Birth of Capitalism, Currency Tales. The transformation of global trade traces its roots back to China's return to silver coinage in the 15th and 16th centuries. Taxes collected in silver led China to seek as much of this precious metal as possible, ultimately sparking worldwide consequences. The massive mining of metals in the New World occurred largely due to Chinese demand, with most galleons carrying silver directly to China or only stopping in Europe en route. China traded sought-after goods like silk and porcelain for these metals, with bullion becoming a dominant force in global trade. As currency and religion separated, monetary exchange was standardized through legal codes and debt became socially disparaging, culminating in debtors' prisons. This detachment from debt weakened societal bonds and cultivated a culture of market interactions driven by self-interest alone. In this setting, capitalism was born, as human relationships shifted towards impersonal, mathematical transactions motivated purely by individual gain. Breaking free from debt's legacy. Richard Nixon's decoupling of the US dollar from gold led to a world of virtual money, with few controls to protect people from accumulating debt, causing unstable financial systems and crises. To counter this, it is necessary to examine debt without relying on only state and market frameworks. We should acknowledge that tough attitudes and enforcement of debt are historically ingrained and that violence plays a significant role in shaping our understanding of money, markets, and society. By freeing ourselves from the legacy of violence, we can reconsider human relationships and create a better world, potentially avoiding future financial catastrophes.
In Debt, the First 5,000 Years. David Graeber masterfully challenges conventional wisdom and debunks popular myths about the history of money and debt. Having traversed through ancient Mesopotamia, Middle Ages, and contemporary societies, we've seen how money has perpetually transformed human interactions. The book uncovers the indispensable role of violence in shaping our understanding of money, markets, and society. Furthermore, it reveals the importance of social connections within pre-industrial human economies, which resist being replaced by quantifiable values. As we examine the intricate web of debt and credit that has bound our civilizations through the ages, we must consider the potential for restructuring the way we view debt, money, and human relationships. ultimately striving for a world where violence no longer dictates our monetary systems.